Hi, everyone. Today we're going to hear from a man who really has worn several hats throughout his life, and he's done it very successfully. He was one of baseball's most prominent player agents. He started a nonprofit organization that really helps people today. And all the time, he's continued to flourish in the insurance business. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome my friend, Dennis Gilbert.
Ross, thank you. It's always good to see you.
You're a lifelong Southern Californian. You graduated from Gardena High School. You went to Los Angeles City College. You played professional baseball for the Red Sox and Mets organizations in Class A for 2 years. You were an outfielder. You spent one season in the Mexican League. And looking at your numbers, you hit 285 in the minor leagues. You stole some bases. In fact, you got the nickname Go Gilbert. Why'd you stop playing?
Stopped playing because I didn't have much of a choice. I was getting to an age where I needed to, put my life together.
Were you worried about what you were going to do when you quit playing baseball?
Well, I always worried about that. I really did. As I was alluding to when we were talking off screen, I had three tools. I could hit, I could really run, and I could talk. I wanted to take advantage of my best tool.
Well, as I understand it, the father of one of your teammates became important in your life, didn't he?
The young man's father would come to practice all the time, driving a Cadillac, and here I was, driving a Dodge van. So I asked him one day, "What do you do?" And he says, "I sell insurance." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Come have lunch with me." And that's what happened.
Wow. What'd you do the first few years? You were 24 years old when you entered the life insurance business.
That's correct. I tell people I didn't do real well, but I sold everybody and anybody that talked to me, from former teammates, guys I grew up with, to hanging out at the marriage bureau downtown. As they'd walk out with their certificates, I go up to them and tell them I was the insurance guy for newlyweds here in Southern California.
How old were you when you began your own insurance company?
Well, let's see. After about 6 years in the insurance business is when I became an agent, a sports agent. And that grew into doing 2 full-time jobs, and I couldn't work for anybody else. So it was having the entrepreneurial spirit. I have my own insurance practice and my own sports agency. And it went really, really well.
But you have never left the insurance business, have you?
Never.
Huh. Were you coaching baseball in those days?
I was actually working part-time as a bird dog for the Orioles. And then I was pitching a little batting practice for the Dodgers. Tommy had me out there in the late 70s, throwing to the extra people. I threw left-handed, and I could throw the ball over the plate with a little bit of velocity.
So years went by, and then you had a chance to become a major league player's agent. Now, Dennis, I've seen 2 stories about how that opportunity came about. One of them said you had a friend who was a baseball agent and died unexpectedly. You took over representation for some of his clients. The other was that you had a close relationship with the baseball playing Brett brothers from El Segundo, George Brett, Ken Brett, Bobby Brett, John Brett, who were all insurance clients of yours. Which was it?
It was both. It came right at the same time. And I was lucky enough to represent George. And I was also lucky enough, or not lucky, I felt terrible. My former teammate, Tony Canigliaro, you know, actually was comatose, and he was representing a few players, and he was living with it, my wife and I at the time. And I just took over and tried to handle, his jobs and see what he was doing. And
Tony had been beaned, hadn't he?
well, he got beaten years before.
Hmm.
He got hit in the eye.
Was George Brett the first player you represented?
Formally.
And then you became the agent for, and folks, listen to this list: Brett Saberhagen, Bobby Bonilla, Barry Bonds, Jose Canseco, Mike Piazza, Ricky Henderson, Danny Tartabull. Wow. You concentrated on major league players, though, not the draft. Why?
Mostly because there was too much interference in talking to the young people between their high school coaches or college coaches and parents and girlfriends and other people. I wanted to deal with people who are a little more mature, who played some professional baseball, and people who are more reliable, a little older. I felt that was a way better way for me to get good clients and keep them.
What was your strategy or your plan to convince players to let you become their agent?
Well, I had knowledge because, in those days in the early 70s, I was self-educated. When I started in the insurance business, I took the route of what they call a correspondence school. And I learned all about accounting because I thought accountants controlled the insurance industry, who's going to buy it, how much they were going to buy, and I wanted to speak their language. So I took a course, or 2-year course from Columbia School of Accounting, right through the mail. And then when I went into the agent business, I actually started at Taft Law School, correspondently, right through the mail. Hired a private tutor and had somebody 2 nights a week. She'd beat me up, test me, and so I went to law school for a year, just to be able to get a real feel for contracts and torts and crimes, and that was first year law. And that taught me how to, say, read and think a little bit different also. So between accounting, law, and the education I got, from college and high school, it all came together.
How many players did you represent?
Hundreds. By the time I sold my piece of the business, I think we had over 200 major leaguers at the time on our roster.
Wow. And did you negotiate almost all those contracts?
I would average about 70 to 80 a year.
Wow. Well, here's what some baseball personalities say about you, Dennis. Gilbert employs charm. He likes to greet people with magic tricks and bad jokes. He's a schmoozer. Dennis dotes on his players like a father. He insists they stay at his home when they're in Los Angeles. Is that about right?
That was absolutely correct.
I think the deal you made for Bobby Bonilla. Go ahead.
Me, by the way, I take exception to my jokes being bad. I'm a very funny guy.
Okay, good. I think the deal you made for Bobby Bonilla in 1991 may be the best in baseball history. It is definitely the best deferred contract in sports. First, you got Bonilla, a 5-year, $29 million contract with the New York Mets. Okay, good. But then you persuaded the Mets to pay Bonilla $1,190,000 every July 1st until 2035. Let me repeat that. You heard me correctly. 2035. When Bonilla was 72 years old. An agreement was reached between the Mets and Bonilla to buy out his contract in 2000. At the time, the Mets owed Bobby $5,900,000. The Mets agreed to pay him in annual installments over a 25-season period that stretched from 2011 to 2035.
Started out, as we wanted to defer money. We wanted to defer it at interest. And we used, my experience in the life insurance business. And we ended up using, insurance products. And I think the ability to have the life insurance experience in the deferred comp area and having the product knowledge and having the Mets guaranteeing the difference in the rate of return and guaranteeing an 8% return worked out really, really well.
Bonilla's last year with the Mets was 1999, and he hit 160 his final season in the majors. The last year he played was 2001, so now Bobby Bonilla is 60 years old. So he's got 12 years remaining on his contract. Is that the best deal you ever made?
Well, it's certainly the most famous one. I mean, there were some deals that were tougher, some deals. I mean, I remember, dealing with George Steinbrenner on the Tartable deal and dealing with the Giants on Barry Bonds deal. And, there were some deals that were, pretty tough and pretty rough. And, and by the way, the Mets also did the same type of deal for other players that I had too. So we did a lot of deferred comp, and we did a lot of, what I consider to be, something to, it works. And a lot of other agents didn't like deferring compensation. They wanted to get their commissions up front. They wanted to get everything done. And I wanted, I've seen so many players come out of the game broke, not having any business acumen, not having any experience. And I've seen them come out of the game where, 5, 6, 7 years, baseball players are like kings. In other words, after you're a king, what are you going to do for a living? They find it hard, really hard to make a living. So
you have been quoted as saying, we did very well with the players just by testimonials. We got 100% of our clients from referrals. It was like the insurance business. It was the personal touch that was the difference.
That's correct. That's correct. I can't remember going up to a player cold and saying, I'd like to talk to you to be your agent. Everybody came from a referral.
Wow. In 1990, you pulled another stunner, negotiating a 5-year, $23.5 million pact for Jose Canseco with the A's. That began a streak in which one of your players set a major league salary record for 3 years in a row. 8 months after you shocked the world with the Bonilla contract, you were at the All-Star game. Barry Bonds, who had played with Bonilla for the previous 5 years in Pittsburgh, walked up to you and said, "If you want a new client, you can have me tomorrow." So you negotiated a 6-year, nearly $44 million contract for Bonds.
That's correct. But that was the guarantee number.
Mhm.
On top of that, if he won an MVP on any of those years, he got $1 million. If he came in second, he got 900,000.
Wow.
Third, he got 800,000.
Ah,
And all of that money rolled into the next year's base contract. So when everything was said and done, it was way, way more money.
and he won 7 National League Most Valuable Player awards.
Was it 7? I thought it was 6. No, you're right. It was 7.
Right.
Very, very special player.
In January of 1992, your client, Danny Tartable, had been a free agent for 2 months without any other team showing inclination to make an investment in a productive but injury-prone player. You persuaded the Yankees to sign Tartable to a 5-year, $25.5 million contract. Your close friend, White Sox owner Jerry Reisendorf, said the Tartable deal was the deal of the decade. Dennis created the fallacy that there was a market for the guy. Amazing. He can make people believe there's interest from other teams without lying. There's a fine line between lying and, well, let's call it puffing. Certain guys, and Dennis is one of them, never cross the line. Those 4 deals I just mentioned made your company over $6 million. But one of your former business associates has said Dennis makes more money in life insurance than in baseball. It is not even close.
Oh, that is true.
Dennis, I've heard a lot of fans and others who criticize player agents for landing huge contracts. I don't agree. What is the agent's primary duty? It's to get as much money for their players as they can. So how can you find fault with that?
Well, you really can't. And it's more than money. I mean, I had experiences with kids like Johnny Franco, if you remember him.
Yep.
Johnny Franco got a way better offer for the Baltimore Orioles when he was a free agent than he did from the Mets. And he and his family wanted to live in New York.
You made a decision in 1999 to stop representing players. Why?
There were a lot of reasons. One of them was just, I had 3 young daughters. I was on the road an awful lot. I wasn't doing it for money. I did it out of passion for baseball. But there was an awful lot of off the field things that were going on. Players' families getting involved, girlfriends, in-laws, people wanting tickets to games, people wanting gear, other types of favors. I was not equipped for that. I just wanted to help the players get their contracts, steer them in the right direction, and advise them. And a lot of those players, I still do their insurance, but I do not have anything to do with their contracts, or I'm not their agents.
Dennis, I want you to make a prediction.
Sure.
And you're the best source that I have to get a good answer. What will Shohei Ohtani receive in his new contract?
Tough answer. See, my opinion, as wonderful as a player as he is, he can only play one position every night. He can only pitch once every 5 or 6 days, maybe 7 days, because he plays so hard. At the same time, his marketing value is 4 or 5x of whatever his ability is on the field. I mean, he is a rock star.
Yeah.
The other night, we were talking about Taylor Swift came to Los Angeles. And you couldn't get tickets. And if you did get tickets, they were 5 times what they were initially selling for. They were thousands of dollars.
6 nights in a row.
When the Beatles first came out, they were iconic. Your former partner in the booth, Vin Scully, one of a kind. What is he worth? Well, I can tell you a strategy that I would use, which is a little different, I'm sure, than CAA is very competently represented. I know the people over at CAA, and hopefully he gets the deal he wants, but he's worth an infinite amount to an organization with off the field marketing because he is special. I've never seen him without a smile.
Right. I've
never seen him getting himself in any trouble. Never seen him having any crosswords. So on and off the field, he conducts himself, really the right way. So he's iconic in what he's doing. So what's an icon worth in the baseball market? It's whatever an advertiser or is willing to pay. That money won't come from a team. That money will come from other monies. It's like some baseball teams, they keep putting money into salaries, and is it their own money? Is it borrowed money?
So we're talking $500, $600 million.
It could be that, could be more. It may be less. It may be a big chunk up front for a 3-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
You pay him, 60, 70 million a year for 3 years. Pitchers get hurt, players get hurt,
Yeah.
skills decline. How much, if I could look at books and see how much money he brings in advertising, I'll tell you one thing, when the guy comes to the plate, people don't go out and buy hot dogs. They don't go to the bathroom. But everybody wants to see him hit. When he's pitching, they stay in their seats and they watch him pitch.
Yeah.
They're not moving around. So, he's got special talents. There are not a lot of iconic players. There are a lot of good players. But iconic separates, really great people from good people.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of good people in the Hall of Fame, but only a few icons.
Yeah. Is Babe Ruth about the only player who has matched what he has done, pitching and hitting wise?
Oh, probably so. Was Babe Ruth the best player? Probably not. Was he the best hitter? At his time, he was. I've never seen anybody hit like Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was, getting walked intentionally with the bases loaded. by a very competent manager. I'll
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry Bonds scared pitchers. They
Yeah.
didn't want to throw to him.
Yeah.
I saw him in a game against the Dodgers. That was insane. Gagne was pitching, throwing over 100 miles an hour. He had 3 balls foul out of the ballpark.
Wow.
And then Vin said, I don't know why we're pitching to this guy. And he hit the 4th one out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that was the most incredible plate appearance I ever saw in my life.
And he holds the major league record for most walks in a career. He walked over 2,500 times.
I know. Insane.
Somebody one time, Dennis, walked him intentionally with the bases loaded.
What I say. And that's, I mean, it doesn't happen that way. So he's iconic. And so, and what's that worth? I don't know. It's worth more to some people than other people. So
You have considered team ownership. In fact, you were in a group that tried to buy the Dodgers. Any other teams?
yeah, I was looking at a few other teams. Didn't work out. Unfortunately, when you're buying a team, unless you're an extremely wealthy guy, which I'm not, I do okay. I'm doing fine. I don't run around with a tin cup and a monkey, but I do, but I do run around, and I'm still working today, and I work really hard, and I do have money, but I couldn't do it alone. And some people are in one day and not in another day, and some people value things a little differently than I did. And at the end of the day, I was more right than I was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
in my evaluation. And I'm just happy that baseball is prospering the way it is. For me, baseball has always been not a sport, and not just a game. It's my way of life. I love it. You'll see me at the ballpark 70, 75 times a year.
Wow.
And that's what I do. I go to games.
Also, you wanted to be the general manager of the Dodgers, and you interviewed for the job, didn't you?
Not really. People talk to me about it, but it wasn't an interview. No, right now I'm not the employee type, Ross. I've never been an employee type. Not since I came out of the game. I like being in control of my own business. I think a general manager's job, based on my experience in the game, is one of the toughest jobs any human being can have.
Mm.
He's got to answer to ownership. He's got to answer to the people below him. He's got to answer to the media. He's got to answer to the fans. And he can win 5, 6 years in a row. If he has a bad year, everybody takes it out on him.
Yeah.
It's not the way I'd want to live my life.
Yeah.
No, my life is very, very complete.
In November of 2000, you joined the White Sox as a special assistant to Jerry Reinsdorf. What are your duties?
Whatever Jerry wants, from picking him up at the airport when he comes to town. No, my duties are I advise him on salaries, trades. I do some contracts for the White Sox. I give opinions on a lot of the deals that we do. And let's say if I see something that I like, on another team or someone I like, I'll make a note. And, if everybody agrees, then we'll do something about it.
Mhm. In 2005, the White Sox won their first World Series in 88 years, sweeping the Astros. And you rode in the victory parade with Jerry. That had to be exciting for you, huh?
I still wear this ring.
Yeah, do you? Here's mine. Your passion for baseball led you to finance the building of an inner city baseball diamond at Southwest Community College here in Los Angeles. Also, you've been a major contributor to RBI, Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities program. That's had to be rewarding.
Well, it's a way of giving back. John Young, who started RBI,
Yeah.
uh, needed some money. I know that I wrote a check, as well as Peter O'Malley wrote a check to help him get started. And then Major League Baseball went ahead and matched our checks. And that's what created RBI.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
In 2002, you took on another project, one that is dear to your heart. You started the Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation, a nonprofit organization which raises money for ill or financially troubled scouts. Tell us why you decided to do this.
again, it was a way of giving back. One day I was at the winter meetings, and one of my mentors in the game, a fellow named Rowan Heeman. You remember
Yeah.
Rowan Heeman, and a scout by the name of Dave Yoakum came to me, and another scout by the name of Harry Miner.
Yeah, I know, Harry.
Okay, they came to me and they said, Dennis, we need your business experience to help get a foundation going. And they gave me all these samples of scouts who were troubled. And what's your ideas? And would you be able to run it? So you can't say no to Rowan Heeman.
No.
And then Pat Gillig joined in.
Yeah.
And those are like kind of iconic names to me personally.
Yeah.
One of them. I loved Harry, and I loved all of those guys.
Mm.
And Yoakum was a great friend, and got nobody better than Rowan in the game, and so I said I'd be honored to run it.
How many scouts have you helped?
Hundreds, literally hundreds.
Mm.
See, what happens is every time a general manager changes, a lot of people who work for that general manager just gets dismissed because the new general manager brings in his own people, not because the scouts were incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are trained for nothing else but being a scout. So, some of them don't have money starting off with health insurance. So we started off everybody who got fired. If he had 5 years or tenure or more, we would pay for his COBRA until he got himself another job automatically. Then what we would do is a lot of people were losing their homes, or losing their cars, or losing other things. We'd help them until they got themselves either another job, or in baseball, or even out of baseball. We'd help them get jobs.
What is the greatest need? To pay medical bills or to offer financial assistance?
It's both. It's really both. And we've spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on both. I mean,
How do you find out who needs help?
well, that's why we had a big board. We had a board of directors that went as far east as Dave Yoakum, who was a scout out of Florida and hit the East Coast, and Harry Miner in the West, who knew what was going on with the scouts out in the West. And we had guys in Kansas City and all over the country. And when somebody fell on hard times, we get the call.
At the beginning of the 2019 season, the 30 major league teams employed 1,909 scouts. In 2021, that number was down to 1,756. The coronavirus pandemic in 2020, as you remember, reduced the major league season to 60 games, and the minor leagues were canceled. That meant lost revenue, and many of the scouts let go during the cuts over the last 2 years were older and more experienced, weren't they?
Well, I haven't looked at that. I mean, I've heard that. And so I've read it, I've heard it, but I don't know it to be a fact.
Well, that would mean that they were commanding higher salaries, wouldn't it?
It could mean that. See, a lot of people were terminated not based on ability, it was based on budgets and budgetary situations, but mostly because of the decisions scouting directors and assistant general managers would make. They're the ones that put together your scouts.
One Red Sox scout was dismissed after 40 years. And the White Sox scout that you just mentioned was let go after 29 years. I guess that for years, the proliferation of data and technology and the corresponding cost savings led several teams to make massive cuts to their scouting groups.
Sometimes other things come into play also. If a scout can't travel because he's now in his 70s, if a scout goes in a different direction, wants to and starts doing entrepreneurial things other than just scouting, and doesn't do what he was doing. I mean, every single situation is different. Some people do fall into that category that you're talking about, but some do not. Okay.
Dennis, there have been 7 teams who reduced their scouting staffs by double digits across all the departments from 2019 to 2021. The Angels and the Mariners lost the most scouts, 23 apiece. The Dodgers were 4th with 13. Do you see any changes these days?
Oh, I see it all the time. My opinion is that, players are more mechanical. They don't make adjustments as much. I find hitters are easier to pitch to if they're scouted right. I don't see as many advanced scouts as I used to see. I'll go up in the press box at Dodger Stadium all the time to say hi to scouts. And, I used to see regularly, 10 to 15 scouts a night. Now there may be 3 or 4. So, I mean, it's sad.
Any parting words, Dennis?
No, I just, miss you, Ross. I miss having all the free time I used to have. Right now I'm running I'm the managing partner of Paradigm Gilbert, which keeps me busy 24/7, with the insurance. My parting shot is if you young professional athlete or young professional making real money, you know, you should have a Bobby Bonilla plan. Everybody should, everybody should have one. It's so sad to see people, you know, that have, you know, a skill set that's, you know, very professional. And if they don't work, they don't have anything.
Yeah.
And so as many players as I can get in there to get one of these, I'm going to do it. I'm on a mission.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Appreciate it, Roger.
Enjoyed the time with you.
All right.